writer, her name is Jan Phillips. She's out on a walk on a beautiful fall afternoon. And as she's walking in her neighborhood, she looks ahead and she sees these two boys fighting in the front yard. There's one on top, and he's twisting the arm of the other one and saying, "Say it, say it." So the writer, she's thinking, the older brother on top, he's got him. He's wanting him to admit defeat and say, "Uncle." Classic signal of defeat. So as she gets a little closer to the battlefield, she starts to realize that this boy isn't waiting for the word uncle at all. And she walks by, and the guy's still holding him, holding his arm behind his back. And then the younger brother shouts, "Okay, I'll say it, I'll say it. All right, I love you." So those words end the battle. The older brother lets the younger one up, and they jump up and they go yelling and whooping and chasing each other into the backyard. It would be nice if all fights would end that way. The words, "All right, I love you." So what I imagine happens there is if you have brothers, they get to playing, it starts to get a little too rough, somebody gets hurt, and then one of them says, "I hate you." Now the other boy, he responds with a mixture of, typical immaturity, but also a little bit of inspiration. He doesn't just say, "I hate you" back. He makes his little brother say, "I love you." It's a flawed, immature, but somewhat inspired attempt to get at what Paul is saying in Romans 12. Don't be overcome by evil, overcome evil with good. When someone gets hurt, our first impulse is we're going to hurt them back. We're going to hit them back, we're going to say something snippy back to them. We get drawn into imitating them, mirroring them, doing what they did to us. We're going to pay them back. Fight fire with fire. Or sometimes, as we like to say in our ones, I'll show them that I can play their little game. Show them I can play it a little bit better and get them back. And then pretty soon, we realize that we're acting just like they are. And in the words of that cartoon character, we have met the enemy, and the enemy is us. We're acting just like them. So this writer, Jan Phillips, she's been thinking about this. How can we break that cycle? She wants to break the spell that keeps us addicted to getting even with people. And so she's writing this little poem. It's maybe more like a prayer. And it goes like this. "The mysteries I wake up to are mighty. The dark is always on its way. Let me use the daylight wisely. Let me cast my love to those who sit in fear. Though I do not know how to combat evil, except to be what it isn't, as best I can. So mighty is my readiness for action. My love for good illuminates the night." So I like that little phrase, that she wants to combat evil. She doesn't know how to combat it, but she's going to try by being what evil isn't. I think that's another way of saying she's not going to get drawn into playing by the same rules, the same rules as people who are full of anger and animosity. Don't get drawn into that. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Overcome evil with good. That's what Paul's saying. Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." I think because we are blessed as we break out of that cycle of anger and conflict. So we are peacemakers when we stop mirroring and imitating and retaliating and stirring up animosity. Of course, that's something we all do. Something happens and we feel slighted. Maybe it's a real slight, maybe it's an imagined slight, and then our self-worth is under attack, or at least we feel that it is. So then we try to get other people in on this. We try to get other people angry and offended so so they can be on our side against them. We do it in small ways and large ways. I think some of our major so-called news networks specialize in that, getting people all angry at other groups. So here's an example of what we all do, what Christians do. This is a true story. It's a pastor is kind of confessing this little incident. It's a hot summer day. He goes into a little diner, and here's what he says. I sit down in the diner and at the counter, and 3 minutes have elapsed since I had taken my seat. Waitresses pass me by, 2 cooks, and a busboy. No one seems to notice my presence. But my ego is soothed because the truck driver sitting next to me, he's being ignored also. So I look over to him and I say, maybe this counter is off limits. He looks back very calmly and says, maybe they're just short of help. Maybe they don't want our business. Maybe they're just taking care of the folks at the tables. Time is starting to slow down. So I try a little kind of levity, a little snarky humor. Maybe they just don't like us. The truck driver says, the air conditioning feels so good, I don't mind waiting a little while. It's getting warmer and warmer in there. At this point, a harried waitress stops and she says, the water has been cut off, the dishwasher is broke, there are no more dishes. So now my nameless compatriot smiles, thanks the waitress, and leaves. I don't like him very much. 3 times I sought his support for my obnoxious attitude, but he let me down every time. Only later did I realize that he had chosen to practice what I preach. How many times have you been caught in that one? Don't we do that? See, for me, I find that I'm more likely to get caught in situations like that when I'm not cultivating peace in myself, in my heart. If I'm not centered in the fact that my worth is not based on what other people are saying and doing, but my worth is based on who God says I am, then I'm much more touchy. I start to read things into what people are doing. These imaginary slights, I start to see them everywhere. Or if they're not imaginary, if there's some sort of real problem, then I blow them out of proportion. So, we can either allow our well-being to be centered in other people's reactiveness, their animosity, their moods, my perceived, sense that they're slighting me or offending me, or I can allow my well-being to be centered in God. That's a choice that we have. The good news that Jesus brings to us is that we don't have to be so fearful and defensive. The Spirit of Christ is already in us. His peace and His fearlessness is there for us to rely on if we will turn to that, turn away from the other people, and turn toward God's presence in us. In John 14, Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not let them be afraid. Part of that is that we are blessed as peacemakers because we're not letting ourselves get upset and afraid, because we've turned our focus to Christ. We're able to start making peace because we don't allow ourselves to get pulled into that vicious cycle of, stirring up negative emotions in ourselves, stirring up negative emotions in other people. We don't have to be focused on fighting and forcing people to give us what we think is our due. not if our self-worth is grounded elsewhere, in God. So our true value is there, but we put our sense of value and self-esteem at risk when we put it in other people's hands and say, oh, that person doesn't like me. That person didn't respect me. That person said something to annoy me or offend me. In Ephesians 2, it says, Christ is our peace, because he breaks down the wall of animosity between people. Christ is our peace. So that's the true reality we should be living from. You know, there is no solid wall that divides us from people. You know, there's no solid wall that divides us from people that we're angry at or who are angry at us. They're only imaginary walls that we fabricate because we feel hostile or afraid or uncertain. And those walls are usually imprisoning us more than they are anybody else. So to make peace is to break free of the illusion that we are separate from each other. Christ has broken that wall down. So instead of focusing on our differences, we are set free to recognize what we have in common with people. And we do have a lot in common. Even at the most basic level, we have a lot in common with people. We all, in our own way, crave attention and recognition. We all want to be loved. We all want to feel safe. And we all want to be happy. That's what we all want. That's what the people want who we're angry at or afraid of. So we need to center ourselves in that reality of Christ who breaks down those walls. And as a way of practicing that, I have a little meditation for us all to do. So I want you to take just a moment and think of someone that you have negative feelings about. Now don't start with someone you absolutely hate. Let's start easy. So just take a moment and think of someone that you have some negative feelings toward. Now, everyone close your eyes. Take some deep breaths. Put your hands on your laps, turn your palms upward. Be in a calm and receptive mode. Breathing in the presence of God. Breathing out his peace. Breathe in the presence of God. Breathe out God's peace. Now, picturing the person you have chosen, say to yourself, just like me, this person is seeking happiness in their life. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in their life. Just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Just like me, this person is seeking to fill their needs. Just like me, this person is learning about life. Just like me, this person is loved by God. Okay, you can open your eyes. So this is our true reality. We were all in this together. Christ has broken down the walls that divide us. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, because they reveal that all people are children of God.